Raising young coders is a big topic nowadays. We need to raise generations of young coders that will be the senior developers of tomorrow. And also, it's the title of a book. And I'm so happy to have with me today the author of that book. Welcome, Cassandra Chin.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on today. And I'll just
Thank
hold up
you.
the book which I wrote. It's called Raising Young Coders, A Parent's Guide to Getting Your Kids into Technology.
That's perfect. I will also share the link on the description and some comments. Currently, you are a student, right? But you also do many things.
Yeah, I'm currently a computer science student, and I actually take online classes, so that lets me travel to conferences and have more free time.
And why do you have this goal to inspire children to enjoy technology?
That's a long story. Like, I started teaching kids workshops when I was like 13 years old, and even before that, I was attending workshops myself. So I think I've really seen that, like, usually these workshops, I teach a Raspberry Pi workshop, so it's
Hmm.
like a 2 to 3 hour session on the weekend, and I teach the kids how to do some wiring with the Raspberry Pi on a breadboard, and I have them type a few lines of code in Nano. And there's a game, so like I have them play like a Pokemon game, and to catch all the Pokemon, they have to do a little bit of coding.
Yeah.
So I think I've firsthand seen a lot of kids, all kinds of kids. Some of them already know how to code. Some of them haven't touched a keyboard before. But when I make it like a game and they have fun, then they go home and they want to do more of it with their parents.
So, what did these workshops teach you about how children interact with technology? Even very young kids.
I mean, kids learn really quickly.
Mm.
I think it's all about introducing kids to technology. Because, I mean, not every kid has the opportunity to try technology and go to their first workshop and try coding. So I think also one of the highlights in this book is I try to emphasize getting your daughters involved in technology because I think that's an example where not all girls have the opportunity to have a computer or try coding. And I mean, there's a lot of biases. It can be from schools or the parents. So I think just everyone should have the right to just try a whole bunch of different things and see what's fun for them.
We will talk about that later, also that biases, because there's a big part of the book dedicated to biases in schools, even in society, I would say, about teaching kids and also introducing kids to technology and I would say the IT market in general. We will talk about that later. But first, you say in the book that your family helped you in enjoying computer science and technology since you were really young. So do you think your family played a big role in your passion, in the passion that you have today?
Yeah, I think especially my dad played a really big role. I mean, back when like Java 1 was really huge, he was running it and known as the Java guy. So I got a lot of influence going to Java conferences and meeting people. But also just in the house, I've had video games since before I could even remember. And I think I built my first computer when I was 4 years old,
Wow,
but it was mainly helping with like screwing in the parts because I didn't quite understand how to read manuals yet. But I
sure.
think some early exposures, like even having my first keyboard when I was really young, it like helped hand-eye coordination and just integrated technology into my life. And I feel like there's always some fun hobby projects going on in the house. Like there's 3D printers, CNC cutters, Raspberry Pi projects, just all kinds of things. And these are all like fun experiences with technology. It's not like I'm just watching my dad coding on the computer 24/7.
Mm.
I think that's another thing which some kids struggle with is sometimes computer science day jobs look like coding, like walls of text. But behind that code, there is a lot of creativity. But just from the outside view, it looks boring.
It can look boring. I remember when I was a young kid, I began to be like interested in computer science and in how to solve problems with the computers because I wanted to play games. And at the time, there were games that just didn't launch because they required a specific configuration or a script to launch. And so I had to just edit the script manually. I was very young, but I had a cousin that helped me. Of course, I felt like an hacker when I just edited some really silly script, but then I launched the games. Having a goal. So the goal was I wanted to play a game. You even in the book mention an example. This young girl that wanted to just play Minecraft or mod Minecraft, add the mods to Minecraft. And to do that, she had to learn some like coding or doing some stuff with her computer. So having a goal, a challenge, is also played
I
also a
think
big
for
part.
me, like Minecraft is also one of my big influences. I started a Minecraft server when I was like maybe 12, and you'd be surprised to run a server, you have to have like a terminal you're
Yeah,
typing Linux Ubuntu commands into, and you have different plugins. Those plugins have dependencies, and you're editing YAML files. There's
and
even
then
like
something
permissions you have to manage.
something doesn't work, so you have to figure out.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in there. So I think a lot of my, let's say, side coding skills are from that, like how to navigate systems.
And do you think personal interests like playing video games significantly influences a child's learning path and interest in technology?
It definitely can, but I wouldn't say that's true of all video games
Mm.
because there are smartphone games which they're easy to access and some can even be a little addictive.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of PC games have a bigger influence, maybe even console games, because you see a game and it looks amazing, and maybe you're thinking that I want to create a game someday. So that's how it kind of starts. And with some games like Minecraft, you can even do some modding and coding to make the game more fun.
Yeah. And by the way, you wrote a book before Raising Young Coders, which is this one, Fippy's AI Friend. And I remember this very well because I helped you. I translated this book in Italian. So, people, you
I
have two
actually have the
books.
Italian version next to me. This is the one you translated.
Yeah, I don't have the printed Italian version. That's fun. Yeah, so people, if you want to teach your kids, your young children to learn computer science, you have two books right now. You have the AI, Fippy's AI Friend, and you have Raising Young Coders. By the way, how did this first book pave the way in writing this new book?
It's actually been really successful. Like, I just see random people I meet and they've just heard of my book before. It
Mm,
surprises me. And I went to KubeCon last time and they're still selling the book at the CNCF store. And I saw people like constantly flipping through it. It's a really big success. And this Fippy's AI Friend book is actually related to how I got the opportunity to write my new book. Like, because of my Fippy's AI Friend book, I've been giving more conference sessions, and I even got a couple keynote opportunities. So I gave a keynote at DevNexus, and actually my acquiring editor for Apress for my new book was watching that keynote. So I got the book contract right after that.
that's great. So let's move to the book itself, the core of the book, Raising Young Coders. So I have a question on the main philosophy of the book, which is inspire, don't push. So why is it important to make technology fun and creative for children at the beginning when they are starting to learn rather than focusing on formal languages or more complex languages?
I think kids have a mind of their own. Like, while they're still young, you might think you can force them to learn things you want them to learn. But once they grow up a bit into high school and college, they just do what they want to do. And I've really seen this firsthand. Like, I guess I had a really fun experience with technology growing up, so I'm still doing it. But I have friends who maybe they're doing technology still, who also did the workshops with me when they were little, but they also tend to deliberately pick a college which is further from home, and maybe they switch majors or don't talk to their parents after that. So, I mean, it's not just about starting technology young and having a good influence, it's also like the relationship with your child. So, while you're making technology fun, you're having a good time with your kid. And I think that's important too.
Yeah, sure. But also, you talk about the creativity and the problem solving skills that young kids have. So you are like stimulating those things.
When you think of coding, like, you already know how to code a whole bunch of different languages and you just know it. But I think, like, you can use your knowledge of coding to code a program up, which is really creative. But someone who doesn't have that coding skill set, to tell them to learn the basics first is it doesn't show them the creative and fun part of coding. I think a good analogy would be learning how to write in English. Like, I remember spending a lot of my elementary school years just memorizing vocabulary and writing down words over and over again. But I wasn't really writing stories at the time, so I didn't enjoy writing. But like, writing isn't optional, we all learn it, but unfortunately, coding is optional. So if your first experience to coding is just learning fundamentals and doing all the boring stuff, then you might not want to continue it later down the line.
And it's great that you talk fundamentals because the book is structured in uh, age groups. Like you have specific projects and workshops for specific age groups. Like you start from early learners, and there are the squishy circuits that I didn't know about, but are very interesting. Squishy circuits, paper circuits. So you do hands-on projects with basic concepts, and kids don't even have to write actual code because they probably couldn't do it. But they start learning the basics. Then there are block coding, so you do block coding with like Scratch. And then you start introducing Python at 14 years old for young coding projects. So you think having this structure by age group is also very important for kids to learn?
Honestly, like, you know how when you buy Legos, there's an age on the Lego
Yeah.
boxes? So it's more of an approximation. Like, you
Hmm.
put the ages on the product, and the parents decide that maybe they think their kid is more advanced or less advanced. It's just something good to go off of. But it's definitely important to give your kids the right skill level activity, because if it's too hard and you're asking them to write Python code when they can barely write, then that'll get them frustrated. But if you're giving them a Play-Doh project when they're in high school, maybe that's not quite right.
And you also talk about frustration, like when something goes wrong, like playing or teaching kids, you also need to show a good attitude in solving the problems instead of showing frustration because that helps them, right?
Yeah, it definitely helps. It's just, I guess it's like parenting sense to have the right
Mm.
mindset to work through it with your kid. Like, I mean, my sister's in middle school and sometimes she needs help with her homework.
Hmm.
And when my parent is in a good mood and works through it with her, the homework gets done and she understands it. But if my parents are a little frustrated, then it drags on a little. So I think the same thing applies to any coding projects. When you're in a good mindset, it's easier to work through it and teach your kids.
You also, for all these projects for age groups, you also mention the importance of accessible and affordable tools like the Raspberry Pi, for example, that you mentioned as the first computer for child. So you think economic accessibility is crucial in tech education?
Definitely is important. I mean, not everyone has the money.
Hmm.
And learning technology, it's a good career path. Like, say you're in a family which isn't that well off. Well, if you study and learn coding skills, then in the future you can actually make a lot at a job, and that can be a big leap in your life.
Yeah.
Also, like, Coding is really about problem solving that has no relation to how much money you have. So
Yeah.
honestly, it's something everyone should have the opportunity to learn.
And also many of the tools that you mentioned, like MakerZoid, for example, or the Raspberry Pi itself, are accessible, like economically. So they cost like a toy. So you are like suggesting parents to maybe buy a tool like that instead of a toy for their children. Not every time, of course, but sometimes they could think of buying something like that instead of a random toy, right?
Yeah, it's a good Christmas gift. I think I grew up with a lot of technology Christmas gifts.
Mhm. Yeah, me too. I remember starting with technology-related toys like very simple computers, calculators, and of course gaming consoles like Nintendo back in the days, and then the first computers. And it's true, and you mention it, that a computer more than a smartphone or a tablet or a gaming console helps teaching kids computer science, because with a computer they can actually write code, make things, and they have problem to solve. Instead, they cannot really make an app for the smartphone because that requires a complex stack and everything. They could do
But I
things with the
think
computer.
even basic skills like learning how to use the file explorer in your
Yeah,
computer or having to type, those like little soft skills, they help with learning how to code down the line. I think phones are a little too convenient. You download apps and they're all self-contained.
yeah, yeah. Then there's a very big part, an important part in the book that's dedicated to stereotypes in tech education. And especially two points really resonated with me. The first is that sometimes there's this misconception that technology is for geniuses. It's like for genius minds, and also it's really related to maths, to mathematics. So you state firmly that this is not the case. And how would you debunk this myth?
I mean, I honestly wrote that based off personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
I never liked math growing up, and I remembered there were these really thick computer science and math textbooks, which I think I had one at one point, and I looked through it and just put it down. But I mean, I learned some coding classes in high school. Even before then, I was doing some Scratch block coding, and there really is no math in coding, at the beginning level at least. I
Mm-hmm.
saw I was mostly writing if statements, learning about loops and arrays,
So it's
and
more logic than
yeah,
mathematics.
I really think it's a different skill set than like algebra. And if you do need high level math in your code, honestly, you can Google that and learn it on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
But I think coding is different. There's a lot of problem solving. I mean, I enjoy coding, but not math. I think that says something.
But you think that many children just think they aren't smart enough because of the STEM branding or because what schools teaches to them?
Yeah, I think the STEM branding is part of it. It kind of lumps in science,
Mm.
technology, engineering, and math all together.
Hmm.
So everyone takes math in school. And honestly, I think kids and parents use their grade in math to judge how smart they are. I think that's completely wrong. Your grades in school don't determine how smart you are, and especially for math. Because when I do math in school, I find there's a lot of memorizing formulas.
Hmm.
Like you're kind of copying or learning what the teacher tells you to do exactly step by step. I think there's another type of math where you learn the theory of how those equations are created, but that's not what schools usually teach. And that would be closer to programming.
But do you think these days schools are failing to inspire children, to teach children how to enjoy computer science?
And not all schools have a
Mm.
computer science class.
Mm.
So I actually live in the Bay Area, kind of near San Francisco. So the school district I went to is a little more affluent. So I did have computer science classes in high school, and now they have more computer classes in middle school and some after school programs, which they have too. But I think not everyone has the opportunity to go to a school with a computer science curriculum. I know a friend who lives somewhere else and they didn't have coding classes in high school. They just did some beginning scratch block coding. And also schools treat coding like an elective class, so a lot of people just don't take it.
I see. So, would you advise parents to look for workshops or other local programs outside of school?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good idea to get some early exposure to technology. But you can even start with some of the projects in this book because, I mean, your goal is to make things fun for your child. If they enjoy technology, then they might want to pursue a computer science degree when it's time to go to college. So I think as a parent, it's really about trying to find what interests your child.
Another key point in this section of the book is about the lack of women in software engineers, so the diversity, okay, and how gender stereotypes start early. Why do you think it's crucial to involve girls from a young age?
When you're young, you don't know about stereotypes yet.
Mhm.
Like, statistically, when kids get into about middle school age, they start forming opinions on what occupations and careers might be good for them. So, if you're a girl and you've been playing with technology, maybe video games, since you were a child, then that's just part of your life. And once you hit middle school, you're not going to suddenly change your opinions on what you like and dislike because you've been doing technology all your life and that's what you enjoy. But I think in middle school and high school, there's also influence from friends, like whether your friends are interested in technology. So it's like especially important to get kids involved when they're young. And I got involved when I was young. I actually like the term woman in tech. I wasn't aware it was that big an issue because I always grew up with technology and I never had any discrimination in the house.
Yeah, you didn't know. Yeah.
So, like, even in high school, I was taking computer classes. I think there was still a decent ratio of girls in the computer classes, and I actually had two childhood friends who they always did technology and they're also doing computer science now. So I was kind of shielded from it. But honestly, I think that's the ideal state you want your kids to be in. Like, what other people think and biases don't matter. You should just do what you think is fun.
Yeah. Also, in the book, you reference to the history of women's involvement in the IT marketing, computer science, and the shift that happened with home computers. So, do you have an explanation for that shift in why women were involved before, and then with home consoles and home computers, that changed, they shifted completely?
I think the biggest explanation is computers are kind of expensive. So in a
Mm,
standard family, the parents just buy one computer. And if they have a son and a daughter, they would give that computer to the son.
okay.
Like after lots of families and generations giving the gaming console and computer to the son, then I mean the girl doesn't get the exposure to that. Growing up, they get the idea that technology isn't for them.
Okay. I am a bit opinionated in this, so I have an idea on this that I'm telling everyone. Expanding on historical bias, okay, that began with home computers and home console. And I think this is related to the marketing of technology because consider the rise of video games in the 1980s, okay? So they were marketed predominantly toward boys. And so I think this played a significant role because this influenced one or two generations of young children. Because if I remember myself and my brother, we were into video gaming and then we were into computers because of that, as many of our friends. And we didn't have many girls friends into video games because their family just didn't involve them in video games. We were all boys. And many of us then pursue a career in technology. Do you think this could have been influential in the subsequent generations' interest in computer science?
I think you make a good point, and you're probably right on that. Like, I think video games were marketed to boys at the time. And if you think that the young boys at the time are now grown up and some of them have their own kids now, they're likely to influence their daughters and sons about what they should enjoy. Say, like, you're enjoying a video game, probably more likely to invite your son to join you because that's how you were raised and saw that it's a boy thing.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think that marketing plays a significant role. So we are lucky that today things are changing. I see that even I'm still a gamer and I see that things are changing in a positive way, but there's still work to do. Also about that, you traveled a lot because you do workshops all around the world in different countries. And have you noticed differences in gender bias in all these countries?
Yeah, I definitely have noticed it. I mean, I've taught a lot of kids workshops internationally. So I think the probably the worst place is the Bay Area where I live.
Hmm.
A lot of the kids workshops I've taught here, the classes have been pretty much all boys, maybe one girl. And I think the problem is that in these workshops, the parents drive their kids to the workshop. So it's like optional. And that means the parents are deciding what the kids should be interested in.
Yeah.
But I've also taught workshops I taught one in Morocco for Devox Morocco, and they don't really have a lot of money there, so they actually communicated with the local school and bussed in the kids there. And when I taught a workshop there, they actually had a pretty much 50-50 girls and boys. But I think the biggest reason for that is they collaborated with the schools and treated it like an after-school program.
Hmm.
So I mean, the parents were kind of treating it like free daycare, and the kids weren't told by their parents that they should or shouldn't go. If they wanted to go, they could just sign up for the bus ride.
In the last part of the book, you talk about role models, especially female role models. So there's a chapter dedicated to 5 women role models in technology. Why do you think having a female role model is important for inspiring young girls?
Many of these role models I chose are some of my personal role models. I
Mm,
mean, growing up, I've just seen them around, and I go to conferences and I see them talk on stage and just act naturally with people. I mean, I think it's important to have good role models. I mean, especially female role models for girls, because I mean, it's someone you look up to, but you can also look at that and say it's possible. I can do that one day. I also tried to choose role models who are not too famous because you want it to be obtainable. Like, these are people I actually know, and this is something anyone could be doing one day.
Do you think there's a common thread in these women's stories?
Probably the most common thread is their childhood experiences. All of them had some interaction with technology growing up.
Mm,
Like some of them had video games when they were young. Some of them maybe got a lot of bonding time with their father who did technology with them. So I think it's a mix of technology and their parents spending time with them.
yeah. So you think family influence is really important, spending time with kids on tech projects that creates a positive influence, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of kids' interests develop because it's based on what their parents are interested in and will spend time with them for.
Regarding, and that's probably the closing question, regarding the IT job market today, if you consider young women entering this field, based on your experience, of course, and all the experience of the women that you interview, what is the typical experience that girls face today entering the IT job market? And what do you think, what are the steps that can be taken, in your opinion, both from individuals and from the industry to like improve inclusion and opportunities?
I mean, for improving inclusion, just being in the IT market, you're already helping to improve inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's really about speaking up and having your voice be heard. Like, if you're working in a team of developers, it's about, I mean, if you're in a meeting, just making sure that your voice is heard. And if for some reason your voice is not heard, then make sure you talk to other people and communicate well.
That's great. Thank you. I have a bonus question, and if you don't want to answer, we will just cut this out. But reading your book, this question just popped up, and it's about one topic called affirmative action. Are you familiar with it? Where there are measures designed to increase the representation of underrepresented groups. Okay, so this is called affirmative action, when you take into consideration the gender, the ethnicity, the religion when you are into the interview process. Or so this is meant to improve diversity in tech, to force improving diversity in tech. So while you don't mention it in the book, based on your perspective on the matter and on the need to improve diversity, do you have some general thoughts on such measures?
Well, just a personal story. This goes back to how I didn't care that much about women in tech just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, growing up, I've had friends who like technology. I did what I want. I learned how to code. So I also didn't understand why we needed affirmative action. I was just like, if people wanted to code, then they should code. But after going to conferences and seeing, I mean, all the guys who are developers, it's been more obvious to me why there is affirmative action. Like, I think it's something we need while there is a problem, and which is now. But eventually, when it normalizes, then hopefully we can take affirmative action out.
To be honest, I completely agree with you. I know that's a controversial topic, and I also value some different opinions on that. But I also think that since there is a problem and it's under everyone's eyes, we need to take an action on that.
I would like to argue that I feel like this affirmative action with women in tech,
Mm-hmm.
it's the most popular with women. I mean, I think most women in the technology field know about affirmative action, and maybe they go to the Grace Hopper conference, or when they
Mm-hmm.
go to conferences, they join the women's lunch. But I think there's a bit of an issue with getting guy developers involved in this. Like, it's good that there's a lot of push, but honestly, I think the supporters matter maybe even more. So we need to get more guys involved.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I agree with you. So, Cassandra, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the book and for having accepted my invitation. Can you show the book again so I can then show the link?
Yeah, this is the
And
Raising Young Coders book.
yeah,
I'll also give you a 20% off discount code, which can be used on the Springer site.
that's perfect. I will share with the audience. Do you have a final message for our listeners on this topic?
Yeah, so if you have any girls or just kids, it doesn't hurt to try technology with them. Even if you think they don't like it, just try it and see how they feel with it.
That's perfect. Thank you, Cassandra. See you next time.
Thank you, Eduardo.